Okay, so what if science fiction wasn't, just fiction anymore? What if some of those really out there ideas, creating totally new societies, completely separate from ours, what if they're actually being funded right now?
It sounds like a movie plot, right?
It really does. We're seeing these stories about like super wealthy crypto investors buying up private islands,
Yeah,
and not just for, a nice vacation spot.
exactly. That's the core of what we're diving into today. We've been digging into this article, Crypto Utopias on Private Islands. And it really lays out this phenomenon that's, well, it's a lot more real than you might first think.
Right. Okay, so let's try and unpack this for you. The mission here for this deep dive is to get a handle on this pretty fascinating, maybe slightly unbelievable trend. Who's actually doing this? What are they really trying to build? And maybe why is it all kicking off right now?
Well, what jumps out immediately from the source is this isn't really about, like, luxury beachfront villas. These investors, they're buying islands specifically to build what the article calls crypto utopias.
Crypto utopias.
Yeah. They're thinking like completely new communities, self-governing, built from the ground up, and powered by decentralized tech, blockchain, basically.
Okay, so it's like taking the whole blockchain idea, the whole ethos, and literally dropping it onto a physical piece of land.
Right.
We're talking places where maybe Bitcoin is the main currency, where the legal stuff is maybe based on smart contracts instead of old school law, and decisions get made through like DAOs or on-chain voting. It's a real attempt to make a sovereign place based on these decentralized ideas.
And the article actually gives some concrete examples. It mentions deals happening places like the Caribbean, the South Pacific, often hidden behind, anonymous shell companies. But these companies seem linked to big names in crypto. There's even one public project, Satoshi Island in Vanuatu.
Oh, I think I heard about that one.
Yeah, it's being openly marketed as like a future blockchain society.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though, based on the source. They're planning for everything, right? Resident IDs, property deeds, all as NFTs.
That's the vision.
And governance through DAOs. It's like taking all the Web3 concepts we talk about and trying to make them, well, a real country. But, I mean, is just putting a deed on an NFT enough? Does that replace centuries of, legal systems? What happens when there's a real fight?
Yeah, does the article get into that? Like, how do you resolve actual disputes?
Yeah.
Or is it just the ideal picture for now?
That's a really crucial point. And the source, it highlights the huge ambition, but it also sort of points to how experimental this all is.
It touches on that idea that tech might be there, but the social infrastructure, the legal side, in the real world, that's totally untested like this.
Right.
Making a digital deed is one thing. Enforcing it when someone, physically disagrees, that's the challenge they're still working out.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the utopian dream. The article makes a strong point about a kind of dual purpose here.
Dual purpose. So it's not just building the perfect digital nation. What else?
Exactly. There seems to be a big element of escape.
Escape. From what?
Escape from the systems they think are getting too restrictive. So governments cracking down on crypto, worries about sanctions, capital controls, even bigger anxieties, maybe about global instability or, society breaking down.
Okay.
But the article kind of frames this island thing partly as using their massive wealth to build a physical safe haven, somewhere insulated from traditional governments and, potential global chaos.
Well, it's part grand experiment in decentralized living and part like bunker in paradise for the crypto wealthy.
That contrast really comes through in the article's perspective, and that brings up a big question the source deals with. How should we actually view this? Critics, the article points out, see it as potentially quite dystopian.
Dystopian? How so?
It's like a kind of digital feudalism.
Right.
Or this new ultra-rich group uses its money to just opt out of the rules and systems the rest of us live under.
Yeah. Okay, I can definitely see that argument. If the way in is buy an island, well, that doesn't sound very decentralized or open to everyone, does it? Does the source talk about how these island DAOs plan to stop token ownership, just leading to concentrated power, basically recreating the old power structures they claim to hate?
The article does mention that concern, and it presents the counter-argument from the proponents. They believe Web3 communities can be borderless, and that maybe blockchain governance could eventually be more transparent, less corrupt than current states. They argue it's just like the next step, pushing the boundaries of how humans organize themselves. So it really highlights this stark difference in how people see the future.
And the timing of all this adds another layer, doesn't it? You've got all these global talks about how fragile traditional banking might be, inflation hitting regular currencies, and governments looking into central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which have their own privacy issues.
Right.
Suddenly, the desire for a totally different independent system, it makes more sense if you have the money to actually try and build it.
Precisely. You can see why someone worried about those big trends might think building a sovereign, blockchain-based micronation is, well, maybe a logical step, even if it sounds extreme to us.
So, okay, what does this all mean for you listening? I mean, for most people, crypto is still about maybe figuring out how to buy some Bitcoin or minting an NFT, right?
Yeah, the basics.
But this deep dive shows that for a small, very powerful group, it's already way beyond that. They're using this tech not just to invest, but to actively try and build a whole alternative world. One where maybe they plan to live completely outside the systems we all use.
It's quite a spectrum to think about, isn't it? While millions are just dipping a toe into decentralized ideas, a few are already out there trying to build the deep end of the pool, so to speak.
Yeah. And that leaves us with a thought directly from the source for you to think about. Next time you see one of these wealthy figures sailing off on their yacht, maybe no, they're not just going on vacation.
They might just be heading off to build a completely different world.